All right. Hello, everybody. We are live. At least I think we're live until I start seeing the numbers pop in. So I know there's a bunch of people already in the chat just chatting. So let me know how the audio is. We got the thumbs up, so that's cool. So we are having a very awesome and a special live stream today. I guess almost in a way continuing our virtual SHOT Show coverage. Hello, Rick. So I see we have people from Facebook and YouTube. So we are streaming to our YouTube page. Hold on. Sorry, our YouTube page on Facebook. Sometimes we do a couple of different platforms. Hello, Joe. Okay, so we're supposed to be possibly joined by Derek, but I do not see him. We'll bring him in whenever it's available. So let me know on the audio, guys, if the audio is good. Karchark, our moderator, is in the house. Alaskan Ballistics, thank you, guys. All right, and then apparently we're also doing a beta test to streaming to Odyssey. So let's take a look. Possibly. Audio is perfect. Good. Thank you very much. All right. So I think the Odyssey should start fairly soon, or I might have done something wrong. I think I did a little bit different. All right. Cool. So we have people watching. All right. Everybody, thank you guys for joining. I guess it was what's up, everybody? Welcome, Squad, and welcome to Slav Guns in the Cave, where we're continuing our ongoing coverage of SHOT Show 2021, our virtual SHOT Show. And we already had Ruger on before. We were joined by my friend Mark. Today, because Ruger decided to go release a pretty banging new gun that I had to rush a video for. By the way, thanks, Brandon, for that. You know, I plan my videos out like 3 months in advance, and then like, hey, you want to review a new gun? Sure. When's it out? In a week. Thanks. Thank you, buddy. My FFL loves you, by the way. So we did the video last week on the Ruger Max 9. It's done fantastically well. It's an awesome gun. Absolutely surpassed my expectations. And you guys still apparently had a bunch more questions. So I'm like, hey, Brandon, do you want to come on and talk about the Ruger Max 9? Address also some of the questions that have popped up on other videos on Facebook page, and also just discuss some of the big questions that pop up for Ruger firearms. I know almost every day, when's this going to be available? And just discuss the overall market. So I'm going to bring in Brendan, who's from Ruger. I'm going to let him introduce himself, what he does, and then we'll get right into it. And a quick reminder, so I do have some questions that I have prepared, a couple of things that I want to make sure that we do go over. And we are going to be taking questions from the audience. So whether you are on Facebook or are on YouTube or possibly Odyssey, Nick, if you can keep an eye out on Odyssey, let me know. And we will answer them. If you are a channel member on YouTube or if you send a super chat, we'll absolutely make sure we take your question first and foremost and make sure you get a good, sufficient answer. So let me bring on Brendan. Hello, sir.
Hey, how you doing, Max?
Thank you for having me here. Well, wait, hold on. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And yes. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Yep. So, Brendan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for the people who haven't known you or have caught your video on the Ruger Max 9 yet?
Yeah, so I had a lot more time to do my video, yeah, guys, I'm Brandon Trevino. I'm the product manager for actually Ruger's Prescott, Arizona plant, although I am in New Hampshire currently. That covers a lot of our pistol products, primarily pistols, and including the Max 9. That was our biggest, latest product launch, and you've probably seen me on the Ruger webpage talking about disassembly and reassembly and all those fun things. So there you have it.
Very cool. So for those who have not gone to the Ruger webpage, to the Ruger Facebook page, watch my videos, in a nutshell, what's the Max 9 and kind of like why did you guys decide to bring it out right now?
Well, I mean, the timing is just perfect. We couldn't have been happier the way that worked out. But Ruger's really been a dominant force in that concealed carry market. The LCP has just been a tremendous gun for us. We've sold literally millions of them. And then right, just above the LCP, that LC9 is just the next tier bigger. And those are really single stack inside the waistband concealment guns. They've been dominant in the market for a long time. They've done really well. But what's changing now is you're starting to see the market changing, and the new guns, like the SIG 365, like the Hellcat, you get the same size package, a slim package, less than an inch wide, still totally concealable, still inside the waistband. But now you can get, 10, 11, 12 rounds into some of these pistols. Yep. So the Max 9 is a micro compact 9mm, comes with a 10+1 and a 12+1 magazine.
Awesome. So it almost seems like, kind of like with cell phones, we've seen a trend from going from big to small. I remember, for instance, like back during like the iPhone 5 days, Apple's like, oh, it's like, why would you want to have like a big phone? You want a nice small phone that you can use. And then like now we went completely back the opposite way. And so my personal carry gun for the last 6-7 months or so has been the Ruger LCP, the LCP2. And I love it because you're giving up a little bit of firepower, but you can conceal carry it anywhere, my front pocket, back pocket, very easy to live with. And it's almost kind of like the idea of, well, it would be nice to have, let's say, a 1911, but either during the summertime, it's just way too big, or it's a lot more hassle to actually carry. So it's better almost to have something than to not to have anything. So where does the Max 9 kind of fit? Because without the optic, I can definitely fit it in my jean pocket, in my back pocket, definitely in a jacket pocket. But is it supposed to be a pocket carry gun? Is it supposed to be an inside the waistband gun? Or does it depend on just how big you are?
Yeah, that's a good question. The LCP is truly our pocket pistol, and those come with a pocket holster, and it's, they call it the gun to have when you can't have a gun. It disappears. It really is very simple, easy to carry, easy to conceal. The Max 9, as I mentioned, it's just a little bit bigger than an LCP. You can squeeze it into a pocket, but not a tight pocket. If you're wearing cargo pants or something like that, it's going to be pretty comfortable for pocket carry. But it's really meant for inside the waistband. It's a backup gun. It's a deep concealment gun still. But again, you're getting 13 rounds of 9mm, and the 9mm today, you can shoot the plus Ps and the hollow points and some defensive loads that perform as good or better than what people expect out of 45 ACP. So that's kind of where it fits.
Cool. And obviously one of the biggest selling points and the features on the gun is that it's optics ready, and you can just throw a J point or a shield type dot on the gun. The question, and like it almost kind of like it's opening up Pandora's box, because gun gamers such as myself, we would look at using a red dot because it'll help you shoot faster at extended or longer distances. What does the red dot, what is it doing on a carry gun where somebody might be shooting it at anywhere, let's say between 7 to 15 yards, or what am I missing?
What you're missing, I think, nothing. Absolutely right. I think what's really interesting about the carry guns today is that they're full featured. We talked about in a full size gun, you could always get, capacity, shootability, target sights, target triggers. You could get ambidextrous controls and red dots and things like that. That was traditionally, those were duty guns. Those were full-size guns. That's what the gamers shot, and you could do all those great things on a full-size gun. The trend now is that all the features you put into a full-size gun, you can now fit into your micro compact gun. So, the LCP is a very, stripped down, very plain gun. The LC9 and the EC9S were very, stripped down. It was just the essentials, because this is a deep concealment gun, and that's all it's for. The Max 9 and other guns like it, you're starting to see a lot more things put into those. So you've got the tritium front sight on there. You've got the reversible magazine release, optional manual safety, and the fact that they're all optics ready. Those are just, it's a feature set that we're adding into those micro compacts to make them more versatile, to make them able to do more things. The second thing is, you brought up a great point, which is, for defensive use, at 7 to 10 yards, do you really need a red dot for that? Yeah, absolutely not. You probably, don't need it to hit a man-sized target, right? Or a silhouette type target. You need it to knock over those little 4-inch poppers and things like that. The reason is, what's really interesting about these micro guns, that front sight, a combat sight, right? The combat sight is not a target sight. So your front sight is, I want to say it covers something like 6 inches at 15 yards. So trying to get, accuracy much better than that is going to be pretty tough, because that's the width of the front sight blade on most of these small pistols. But if you put a 3 MOA red dot on there, suddenly you can shoot very small groups, very tight, very accurate. And, for the gamers, if you're doing IDPA and using it as a backup gun, that's great. Just for target shooting, people love to take these guns out, and they love to go to the range, and they love to shoot little groups. Well, you put a sight on there, you can shoot little groups. A lot harder to do with a really coarse combat sight. And they do co-witness. So in reality, in a stressful type situation, you're going to use whatever you're comfortable with. The iron sights are there. The red dot is there. Depending on the situation and how far you're shooting, you've got both right in your field of view.
Yeah. And you bring up a great point, because in that P365 and the Hellcat area, not a lot of those type of guns you're going to be able to co-witness with the red dot, because the red dot is going to take place of the rear sight, but you absolutely do have it with the Max 9. So that's a great feature. Now, one I have to kind of give you a little bit of a dig for, and some other people commented, since we are talking about features, where's the front rail on the Max 9? I can't seem to locate it.
Yeah, so there is no rail, obviously, and I think it gives it a nice profile. Again, if you're trying to conceal it in a pocket or in an inside the waistband holster, having the rail and having an accessory mounted on that rail, like a big clunky light or laser, is really not what this gun is intended for. But what we are working on is, if you look at the Ruger webpage and you see the LCPs and the LC9s over the years, we've sold those with lasers included, with lights included, and those are usually the trigger guard modules. So I think before too long, you're going to see from multiple manufacturers some trigger guard modules of lights, lasers, and light laser combos that are going to be more streamlined and ergonomic than what you would see on a rail mounted type system. Now, as far as putting your bayonet on there, I apologize, they probably don't have a trigger guard bayonet, but for your basic usages, I think we'll cover it.
You had to bring up the bayonet. Let's say if it was a little closer, I'd reach out for it, but no. So I mean, there are some companies that make a Picatinny mounted bayonet, and I had a great video idea for two Ruger 57s with bayonets on them, but I guess we don't have to do that. And probably finding a holster for that would suck.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of that, so I mean, what? Okay, it looked like you froze up and you're standing still. So one of the features that you commonly see in the Ruger firearms, and you guys made it a little bit more, well, you did it before SIG, which is that the serialized part is the trigger pack that goes inside. Is it possible that we would see other modules come out for, let me rephrase that, other grip frames come out for the Max 9? Let's say, for example, if someone wanted to have a rail or maybe a little bit shorter or whatnot.
It's not planned right now. It is feasible. It's certainly something that could be done. The the insert is something that we just typically do across the board on all Ruger pistols. It's just how we make things. The Ruger American pistol, LCP, LC9, of course the Max 9, the Security 9. We do a machined insert that is the fire control housing. It's either aluminum or steel, depending on the gun. And that holds all the fire controls into a rigid package. Nothing's in plastic. It's all in metal. And that gives you, a good trigger feel, good consistency, all the safety components align properly. So it's a good way for us to construct a gun. As far as what it allows in the aftermarket, we have thought about that. We are looking at it on some other platforms, not this one yet, but we will. It can be challenging just because there's a lot of little pieces in there that have to be dealt with. So we're not sure that we'll do it, but it is feasible.
Yeah. And I guess one of the additional benefits, the tangible benefits to doing something like that is because let's say it's going to be a carry gun. If someone starts playing with the stippling, there we go, and they ruin the grip frame, well, they don't necessarily will need to do another NICS check. It'd be much easier just to take that trigger module and drop it into a different frame.
Oh yeah, it's very repairable. Yep.
Cool. All right, and Derek has joined us, so we'll bring him in. Hello, Derek.
Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight?
Hey, good, Derek. Welcome.
Thank you.
So for those that don't know, Derek has his own YouTube channel, Northwest Guns, and we have kind of been collaborating on our virtual SHOT Show 2021, and he's in one of those big square states out west in case people care. And I think they still have snow out there either, but we'll kind of go through it.
A little on the ground. It's starting to clear up now. Thank God.
Just a little. Now, I know one of the things we've been discussing, and one of the questions that has been brought up for the Max 9 is it possible that we're going to see the Max 40, the Max 45, Max 380, or is it going to be literally just the Max 9?
40 and 45, no, not in this platform. That is one thing that we don't have a lot of in the Ruger lineup. Currently our only 45 is in the, of course, the 1911 and in the Ruger American pistol family. And we make some nice compacts in that are doing pretty well. But we don't have a 40 in the lineup right now. So it would be very, it could look a lot like this, but this platform and this particular size would not digest the larger rounds. The 380, maybe.
Okay. And one thing that I do have to bring up is that Brandon does work for Ruger, and Ruger, much like Smith & Wesson, they are a publicly traded company. So they can't legally answer some of the questions or even of information that they know. Yeah. So if there's a question that doesn't get answered, guys, don't take it personally. It's just the nature of the beast. Now, unless you want to read between the lines, but that's a different story. So the Max 4 is doing it in the, if I understand you correctly, doing it in the 40 or 45 would be a bigger design change and not just a simple rechambering.
Yeah, it would be a physically larger gun, I think. I don't think it would fit in this platform.
Cool. And one of the questions that also popped up in one of the videos was, is the Max 9 California approved?
It is not, and it will not be. So folks in California probably already know this, but the California law changed quite a few years ago so that in order to be on the California roster, any new gun that's added to the roster has to have micro stamping, which is a technology which California argues that it does exist. However, nobody has really successfully been able to demonstrate it in a manufacturing setting. So I would argue that
Brennan
really exist. But that won't happen. And really, the only guns in California right now that are semi-auto handguns, pistols, are ones that are grandfathered, and they can only be grandfathered as long as no changes are made. And every year, a lot of them drop off of that list. This year, in particular, a couple hundred fell off that are just either no longer in production or changes have been made. I'm not talking about Ruger models in particular. I mean, across the board from all manufacturers, California booted several hundred guns off the roster or that were not renewed by the manufacturers. So the short answer is no. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
No, that's perfect. And it was funny that you bring that up because I was last night, I was following on LinkedIn. I was looking at the NSSF feed, and they had an article about this issue specifically about California and microstamping. So I will not going to be able to find it right this second unless one of you guys is on LinkedIn. Post it in the comments, but I will leave it in the comments. So just come back to this video and you'll be able to find it there. Now, on the topic of the Max 9, there was one question that was also submitted about the LCRX, but on the Max 9, so question from Alaskan Ballistics, which was, why should I get, and by the way, guys, go subscribe to Alaskan Ballistics. He's also a fellow content creator from one of those big, okay, fine, the biggest state, and he can probably see Russia from his house. And the question is, why should I get the Ruger over the P365, the Shield, etc.? Or, and actually, there's one question from a follow-up to this, I would say, from Joe Morgan, who's a channel member, or a Taurus. And I'm assuming the Taurus G3C.
Yeah, probably. No, that's a great question. So, first off, get whatever fits your hand. Get whatever you like. You know, if you try them all, you should carry whatever you're most comfortable with. You know, and if it fits your hand and you shoot it well, then that's probably the right gun for you. But in terms of the Ruger as it compares to the others, you know, I'd invite anybody to just kind of look at the features and build yourself a little table and say, how does this compare to that? Obviously, you've got capacity, but also because this is a deep concealment gun, you know, length, width, height, and that sort of thing. So, you know, the guns in this category, you know, that I think are most similar to the Ruger are going to be the 365 and the Hellcat. And just if you're just to look at features alone, the big one, of course, is being optic ready, if that's important to you. The 365 is not optic ready, so you can get a 365 XL that is optic ready, but that's $150 more or something like that. Plus, it has a longer barrel. So instead of a 6-inch gun, now you're looking at a gun that's, I think, 7 1/4 or something like that. So it gets a little bit longer with the 365 XL. And also, you can look at the way that you have to remove the rear sight to put the optic on, that sort of thing. So there's definitely some differences there. It's a fantastic handgun. I shoot one. I enjoy it. But again, it's up to you. You know, what is it worth to you to have, you know, those different features? You know, the Hellcat, I think, is very similar in size. Again, if you want to optic ready, it's $50 more. But I mean, compared to the SIG and the Hellcat, Ruger, similar features, similar capacity. But it's, I think, $100 less than the Hellcat MSRP, and I think $185 less than the SIG 365 XL. For, you know, essentially a very similar handgun in those ways. The other advantage I think that I really like about the Ruger is the sights. So the front sight is that tritium fiber optic sight. It's a day or night sight, so it illuminates the fiber optic at night, obviously during the day. Fantastic sighting system. And the rear sight, unlike anything else in this category, is blacked out. It's a steel rear sight with a square ledge. And it's a black sight. And I think that's a fantastic combination with the red dot optic, because if you're shooting something with 3-dot sights and you put a red dot on it, now you've got 4-dot sights, and that's just confusing. So I think it's a great system. I think that was a really smart thing that we did. We also have the optional manual safety. If you compare it to the Shield, you know, the Shield Plus is really just kind of a shield with, you know, the higher capacity, of course, and the Shields were great guns. They've always have been, but again, you got the higher capacity and flat trigger now. I mean, those are the two new things I think on the Shield Plus. Everything else is pretty much inherited from the Shield. It's not an entirely new platform. If you want all the cool features, the Pro Shop Shield I think is $925. So you could buy 2 Max 9s, or you could buy a Pro Shop Shield, whatever you want. And the Taurus, I think, is masquerading as a micro 9. The Taurus is a subcompact. It really is in that subcompact category because it's a 1.2 inch slide width. If you compare it to the Hellcat and the Shield and the SIG and the Ruger, it's bigger, it's heavier, it's wider. It's a subcompact. It's not a micro compact. So I think that's where I put that one.
Yeah. So that's actually a great point, and I'll call it Bailey. I can say what you can't necessarily say. The Taurus, the G2C, the G3C, they're fantastic guns. I think the trigger on the Max 9 is quite a bit better. But the G3C, and especially the new Toro one, it's a much heavier gun, and you definitely are not going to be able to pocket carry that if you wanted to do that. The other difference is that the Toro is going to use the plate system, whereas the Max 9, it's already cut for a J-point or a mini type sight. So that's going to be a little bit different. You're going to be able to, so by getting the Taurus, so the Taurus is already a heavier gun, but then you're going to need to add a plate plus the optic, and those optics that it's catered for are generally going to weigh more as well. So it's quite a bit of a heavier dot. So actually, Alaskan Ballistics, he also had a follow-up on there, which was, I can't stand blackout sights, but I see why y'all did it. Now, I don't know about all y'all, but me personally, so actually, I can't stand 3-dot sights. So with my vision, it's like when you have 3 dots, it's already way the heck too much. And especially when your focus should be on the front sight for most distances. So I mean, my personal philosophy, like out to 10 yards, I'll generally just point shoot. I don't even look at the sights really. Beyond that, I'm focusing primarily on the front sight. And usually what I find is in a lot of the Smiths that I have, so like the Smith Pro Series 1911, it has the 3-dot sights. I take a black Sharpie and I cover out the 2 rear sights. Again, it has to do a lot of vision as well. So for me personally, I love the blacked out sights, and it's kind of like I'm adamant about that. But if anybody wanted to change out the rear sight, what's the pattern that somebody can, what's the pattern, or what do you guys use for sight wise?
Yeah, so the sights are a personal preference, and these are dovetailed, so you can replace the sights, and they'll fit commercial off-the-shelf aftermarket accessories that you can buy at Brownells or Midway or any of the big retailers or that sort of thing. So the front sight dovetail is actually very similar to the Smith & Wesson Shield, and the rear is similar to that M&P Core. And so you can find those online. They'll fit, and you'll see some stuff packaged for Max 9 and Ruger, I think, shortly.
Well, you just answered my question that I was about to ask about what dovetails were you guys using.
There you go.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
We're using off-the-shelf aftermarket type stuff that should be compatible.
Okay, cool. So one of the things you brought up earlier about lights and lasers, almost immediately after launch. So we said there's probably going to be a couple of companies that are doing it. So I'm assuming one of them will probably be Crimson Trace, but the one that we do know for sure is Viridian. They sent out an email about a day after we launched, launched the Max 9, stating that they're going to have a green or a red laser that's going to be trigger mounted, and it did look very well contoured to the gun, so it's going to be there. So Alaskan Ballistics also had another question about the PC-10, which we're going to ask you shortly. But since we're talking about the Max 9, to kind of one of the things that's going to be brought up is what type of longer term testing have you guys done on the gun, and particularly when it comes to optics, what are some of your recommendations for a red dot? You said what type of testing have we done? Yeah, so basically, like, what kind of testing have you done on the Max 9? Let's say, for example, for somebody to be able to have comfort and peace of mind that they can take the gun and just be able to go conceal carry it.
Oh,
front. Well,
yeah. So,
it's
I mean,
and then
I think it's
and then
fairly
on top.
typical of a lot of Ruger products. We do a tremendous amount of endurance testing and ammo testing before a gun launches. So we do a thing where we call jury testing, where we'll put it in the hands of about 30 different people, you know, men and women of different sizes and different experience levels, and we'll have them shoot different types of ammunition. And we'll see how they perform, how the gun performs, you know, make sure that it's going to be reliable and consistent for, you know, a lot of different people, because everybody's different, and different ammo preferences. So this thing, it runs great on, you know, ball ammunition, the NATO ammo, any type ammunitions. That's probably one of the best features of this gun is it just runs. We have done probably dozens of 10,000 round tests on the gun, as we're checking out new components and optics and things like that, and it doesn't fail. It's amazing how reliable the gun is, and that goes for, you know, the components, but also the feeding, the cycling, the extraction, etc. It's extremely reliable. We've had a number of other companies. As I mentioned, we're working with folks in optics and in lasers and things like that. So we've sent guns out to other companies so they could test their products, and they'll shoot 5,000 rounds with an optic on it, and then tell me, I can't believe it. I just went 5,000 rounds without a single misfire. You know, so it's extremely reliable, and we have, you know, just done incredible amounts of testing on it, and I'm just very happy with where it's come out. And that goes for Plus P ammo as well. It's very comfortable handling Plus P, not an issue for this pistol.
Yeah, and kind of give you guys an update on this as well. So even though I've had mine for about a week and a half, actually, wait, hold on, almost 2 weeks. We have about 400 rounds for the gun right now, and there has not been any hiccup. And since I'm not sponsored for handgun ammunition, I load my own on that. You can barely see it, but the Hornady press right there. And I primarily only shoot. Actually, and you guys will actually see it in the follow-up video at 9 o'clock. I only shoot hollow point ammunition for 2 reasons. Number one, you have no exposed lead base, so it's a little bit better for your health, but it also makes a lot cleaner holds on paper. So, and the gun has been completely flawless with it, both with and without a dot on there. And we also had a couple of people, while I was filming the video, they were shooting factory Federal 115 stuff, ball ammo, and there was no malfunctions with that as well. So since you brought up the optics, what are a couple of recommendations? So on the gun in the video, we used the SIG Romeo 0. And then the next one that I'm going to be doing is the Swamp Fox Sentinel. And this looks like a very, very beefy sight. And then the one I wanted to use is this guy, which is the Delta Point Pro, the new one, the 6 MOA one from Leupold. But even though this has the same bolt pattern as this does not fit on the gun.
Yeah, so you mentioned the Swamp Fox Sentinel. I've got one of those right here. This is really cool. If you go to their website, they've got this iron shield that they call it, and that will go right over the optic, and it's a piece of sheet metal that protects it, and really cool. It's a really nice aluminum optic with a glass lens. It fits right onto the slide. It does sink down and co-witness, but it's a lower third co-witness. You're not gonna. It'll partially obscure some of the rear sight because it doesn't have that recess that some of the other ones have. But it's a really cool sight. You'll also see there's a similar one. There's a sight mark unit that's on the Ruger website that we're selling. That's another really cool unit. Aluminum, extremely high quality. It's the exact width of the slide. It looks like it was made for the gun. It kind of was. It's tremendous. It's beautiful. Other ones that are cool, Holosun, 407K or 507K. That's their J-point shield pattern optic. Those will go on and sink down into the slide, like I mentioned. Crimson Trace, a little bit different. You know, this unit's a little bit wider. It's a polymer body, polymer lens. Their 1550, I think, is brand new. It's just out. I think you can find these, but very robust sight. These things are tough. They do really well. And there's a number of others. You mentioned the Romeo Zero. Of course, there's J Point. There's Shield. And there's a few other ones coming. So lots of options as far as optics. I think, optics are something that's a little bit tough for people to get used to. If you're not used to shooting it, if you're not a gamer, you're not quite sure what to do with it. And I think what really helps is having the co-witness, because all you're going to do is you're going to bring your gun up and establish your sight picture just like you normally would, because you've got your front and rear sight are right there as a point of reference. And then you've got the option, for a little bit more accuracy, of being able to use that 3 MOA dot on there. But having the ability to co-witness makes it absolutely natural to bring it up and get your sight picture. The other thing that really the optics help with is your focus, right? So the dot is focused at infinity. So if I'm looking at a target at 25 yards, I'm not trying to look at the rear sight that is 3 feet in front of me and the front sight that's 3 foot 6 inches in front of me and try to align that with a 25-yard target. I'm actually focused on the 25-yard target, and the dot is just appearing in my field of view. And you mentioned defensive use earlier, and I think that's one of the the great points about defensive use is if you've got someone who's a threat, you want to be looking at the threat, right? So it's hard to take your eyes off of the threat to see that front sight and align it with the rear sight. With a red dot, you're looking at the threat, and the red dot just appears in your field of view. So I think that's another great advantage and maybe a reason for carry optics.
Yeah, I would say probably the only one of the downsides that I would say with the dots is so where I film most of my handgun videos, usually by the time I get there, the way that the range is oriented, when the sun is in your face, it is much tougher to see the dot. And I think so, not for the Max 9 video, because I knew better. By that point, I'm like, okay, I got to get to the range earlier or later, so the sun is not going to be in my face. But when I was shooting my Zev OZ9 with the Trigicon and the suppressor, like totally tactical, the sun was in my face. I'm like, I can't look through the sights to look through the suppressor. And with the RMR, because it has like the green tint to it, I can't even see the dot. It's like, it's nuts. So I'm like, okay, the dot comes off, and just shot it without. And that was actually for the Timney Glock trigger video that I was going to shoot it with the suppressor on. I'm like, I can't see it. So is put on a different upper on there, and it works. Let's say that's probably the only thing, but I think for 90 would be good. But yeah, just go play with them, and we're going to have detailed videos on the Swamp Fox and the Sig Romeo Zero.
It depends on the coating, and it depends on the brightness levels too. You can go way, geek out into the sites and look at all the tech specs and things like that. But some of them have auto brightness, manual brightness, and you've got different brightness levels, for direct sun. How quickly do they respond if they're auto brightness? And then what types of coatings are used? Because some of them can be, as you say, you can have problems in sunlight. It's also the quality of the lens and how the lens was polished that can create problems in some of the lesser optics. So that's a whole other field that gets really complicated. In general, I think the optics improve performance for most people. But if you're really, a competitor, you're going to want to spend a lot of time deciding which optic you want.
Yeah. And I would also say, I saw it in one of the comments that pop up. If you have astigmatism, that might give you an issue, and then you might have to try to find a dot that works and avoid the cheaper ones where it's not a dot, it's a starburst. So don't go on Amazon and spend $30 on a dot and expect it to be good. Fortunately, I don't think they have those cheaper ones yet for the J points. So changing gear a little bit, also from Alaskan Ballistics, sent a super chat, and I'm sure he speaks for others. When are we going to see a 10mm Ruger PC carbine that's a large frame for just 9mm, or 10 PC10 for 10mm, or is it going to be just PC9? Also, a Ruger American rimfire takedown. And so 10mm, he's from Alaska. They use it. make it happen.
Yeah, I'll probably just leave it at that. It's probably our number one request is a PC carbine or charger in 10 millimeter. So we're well aware of the demand.
So what I would say is, so from my conversations with Mark, is that you can't do, my understanding is, so you can't just take a PC9 and make it a 10 millimeter because it just, engineering wise, it just doesn't work. So it'd have to be a brand new design, basically, or magnumized.
It's a blowback. So, you've got a lot more energy in a 10 millimeter than you do in a 9. So it's not just a matter of rechambering it. It is a different design. So, yep.
Okay. And Ruger American Rimfire Takedown. I'm not sure if that is that an Arizona gun? I don't recall.
Well, it's Mayan, but I'm not sure. We do the obviously the 1022 takedowns. Ruger American Rimfire is our bolt action. It's an interesting thought. I haven't had a lot of call for the bolt action as a takedown, but I can see where it might be useful.
Yeah, so definitely kind of like as a backpacking type gun, something just to have something there if you wanted a bolt action rather than a semi-auto.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, awesome. Thank you very much for the super chats. I don't think we have more. All right, so how we're doing time-wise? Do we have some time to take some questions from the audience?
Yeah, probably. I got a good 10, 15 minutes here. So.
All right, so. And guys, so after Brennan leaves, we are going to stay till 9 p.m. And at 9 p.m., I have a video premiere on the takedown. So one of the questions that you guys have been asking, how does the Max 9 take down? And we can't do it in a live stream because we are not handling handguns on a live stream. Not yet, not on YouTube at least. So I have a video on that. I have a video on that coming up at 9 o'clock. So as soon as we end the live stream, it'll go right into that. All right, so I'm going to go back through. So we talked about so before we started, there was, I've been following very closely. As the street price for this gun been announced yet? Yes, it was $499 MSRP. And I guess a related question to this, what is the availability on them? Because people want them, and the only place I saw them available for now was Sportsman Warehouse, and then like they basically just sold out.
Yeah, I mean that's the story across the board. I think if you look at the gun industry this year, everything has limited availability and over demand. That's always challenging with a brand new product introduction. So I can say we're making them and shipping them. If you be a little patient with us, I think they'll start to become a lot more available over the next few weeks and months. Just right out the door, they disappear pretty fast.
Cool. I'm not sure if you can answer this one. Has Ruger been able to acquire materials at a reasonable pace so that we'll see a constant outpouring of this firearm?
Yeah, this one's not really, well, everything is affected to a certain degree by particular material shortages. So what you see with the Max 9 right now is we have just enough magazines for production. We'll have accessory magazines. We'll be out probably 1st of May, maybe a little bit sooner. You'll probably be able to find them on Shop Ruger. But then they'll start pouring out to retailer and dealers and distributors and that sort of thing. So I think that's probably the only thing that we're constrained on right now. But in terms of everything else, we are set up to run it at our maximum capacity. And if we can exceed that, we will, but it'll be tight. Cool.
All right. So then a comment, Joe Morgan, hey, I'm green now. Yes. So Joe, if you're a channel member, there's a join button down below. You help support the channel and you get a special tag that signifies that. I wish they manufactured ammo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
All right. Yeah, so a lot of ammo demand out of hand is sadly no easy fix. I mean, well, I think the industry is producing at a record pace. It's just that demand is even higher.
Yeah, no, you said that right. I've been through this. I think this is the third cycle, that this happens every number of years. But yeah, the ammo manufacturers are ramped up. They're cranking out as much as they possibly can. The demand is just absorbing all of it. We saw some NSSF statistics that they think in 2020 there were 8 million new shooters or first-time gun buyers, and estimated. So you think about that, huge numbers of firearms being sold, new people coming into it. The existing customer base is buying up as much as they can. The new people are buying up stuff, and it takes sometimes years, to add capacity to a factory. So they're doing everything they can. I know they are, and we'll get through it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting. I mean, that stat keeps getting revised higher and higher. First, it was like 2 million, then it was like 4 or 5 million. Now it's 8 million. And let's put it this way, guys. It's almost getting to the level that's usually how many NICS checks there are on a given year, but we're approaching those levels just in number of new gun owners. So that's really where it's going. All right, so here's a great comment for Ruger is a great company. Brian from the Revolver department deserves a raise.
Okay, see what we can do.
Pete, bravo, doing a slop squat while watching this live stream. That's how it is. Love my Rugers. Currently digging. Okay, so here's an interesting one. Currently digging mechanic, but Ruger would be nice. Does Canic have anything kind of like in that range? And do you see a lot of people cross-shopping Rugers and Canics?
The only Canic I'm aware of is that TP9, which is kind of a Glock competitor. But if they have other things in their product line, I'm not familiar with it.
No, cool. They don't have a micro compact. They got a subcompact, but they don't have a micro.
Cool. So here's actually a really good question from a Ruger customer. It looks like a great replacement for my LC9S. So what are some of the upsell points for somebody who's looking at the LC9S versus the Max 9? Or what would make somebody upgrade from the LC9 to the Max?
Yeah, so the similarity between the two, of course, is the size. They retained the same size package. The Max 9, I think, is only a few thousandths wider than a LC9S. And it also retains the rotary sear and striker mechanism from the LC9S. Everything else is completely different. There's really no interchangeable parts between the two guns. But major changes, I think, are one is the safety. If you have a safety model LC9S, it's very easy to operate, but maybe less intuitive. So the Max 9 safety is it's kind of the same angle and position like a 1911 would be. So you can very quickly flick it on and off with your thumb. And it also comes in a Pro model, without the manual safety. Other changes, of course, are just basically everything. So, new sights, optic ready, the 12+1 capacity, different slide serrations make a big difference. Those are very grippy and very comfortable to really manipulate that slide. So it's the Max 9 is a full-featured gun, as I mentioned earlier, and the LC9S and LCP are very stripped down, basic concealment firearms.
Fantastic. And I would say I'm a big proponent of if you're gonna. So the one that I did the video on is the Pro model, which does not have the safety. However, if there was an external safety, a 1911 style safety is great because then usually if you're shooting with a thumbs forward grip, you're riding the safety and. Well, you're not going to do it with the LCP, but it's perfect for the Max 9. Okay, so then there's people who are basically complaining about Taurus. Red dots are easier for older eyes, and I get that's a big one. And then people are obviously discussing, well, I like irons, but I can see dots being beneficial. Okay. Okay, so here's a good question. How about lefty? So the magazine is reversible. Any possible plans for having an ambidextrous safety? Probably not ambi slide release, but like let's say ambi safety.
Yeah, like you've got it. Yeah, mag release is reversible. Safety is not, and the slide release is not. It's not currently planned at this time. So, you know, your best bet for left-handed shooter would be the Pro model. Then you don't have the safety to contend with.
Cool. Fretted barrels in the future.
And no threaded barrels. And you know, the other thing is the slide release. You know, it is a slide release. You can release it that way. But you know, I think if you've been through some of the tactical training and things like that, most people recommend just, you know, manipulating the slide by you know, grasping and releasing the slide rather than contending with the slide release. That way you get a full charge to get that round seated. So for left-handed shooters, it's how you manipulate it. And a Pro model would be my suggestion. Yep.
Cool. You don't answer this one. You're publicly traded. The Hello Kitty is cool, but I think the Ruger is a better value. Now, in my video, I kind of goofed and I called the Hellcat the Hello Kitty, and you can blame that on another company rep. It was not Ruger. It was SIG.
Okay.
So, yeah, it definitely, I mean, I think, hold on. Sorry. Yes. It was awesome. And I agree, but you know what? I'm going to get a Hellcat and I'm going to paint it in the Hello Kitty theme. I absolutely would do that. But no, I think that's the great point. I mean, the Ruger Max 9, me personally, where I think it fits is that it's going to be a great value, as most Rugers generally are.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I don't think you're sacrificing anything with the Max 9 versus the others. Okay,
yeah,
so
I
here's
think
actually
a big step up for the Ruger brand. I mean, I think it's just, again, I'd invite you just to compare the features, make yourself a table, look at them side by side. I think Ruger's got everything that you can find, anything you would want, and at a better price point. So, and extremely reliable. I credit somewhat the magazines are fantastic. That nickel Teflon coating that's on there. I mean, that's why that gun just runs. It's incredible. So I think we've done some things very different than what you've seen in Ruger. I mean, in the past, you don't see, you know, tritium sights and optic ready and cutting edge stuff. And we're moving in a different direction. You know, you look at the Max 9, you look at the Ruger 5.7, the PC Charger. I think Ruger's done some really cool things, and I think it's really good for our customers and good for the brand.
No, definitely. Absolutely. All right, so here's one along the same lines. I'd rather not have the TFO front sight and the gun be $100 cheaper. Interesting. Or is that
$100 cheaper? Just depends what you compare it to.
There you go. Yeah, because I mean, the gun is already one of the best values in that price point. It definitely is. I mean, it went up a little bit, but I mean, when you look at the sights like that, would cost you probably about $100 to begin with. Then having a gun optics cut. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though. You're almost at the point already where the red dot that you mount on the gun is going to be as expensive or more expensive than the gun itself, especially when you're looking at the Trigicons. Or I'm sure Leupold's probably at some point going to have a micro one that's going to fit that.
Yeah, I didn't answer your question on that, but yeah, is a big deal. So I think you covered it. It has the same mounting pattern. It does not have the same footprint. So you can mount a Delta Point Pro on a lot of guns that use the J-point shield pattern. If it's a flat top, recessed, it will not down into that recess because it's a larger body that's on the Delta Point Pro. It works on like an MOS or something like that because it's a flat top. That's all.
Okay. Drew had a comment, which was Ruger's customer service is the best I've ever dealt with. Absolutely wonderful breath of fresh air. Talking with Ruger's tech support. And that's generally what you hear. Okay, so here's actually a great question from our friend in New Jersey, Stan. Will there be a Band State Pro version with the 210 round mags and no manual safety? Because right now, the only 210 round SKU that you have is with the standard safety.
Not immediately, no. So we have the 3 SKUs out there. You've got the standard, the pro, and the state compliant. The state compliant does have a safety, and there will be before long be a Massachusetts compliant because they have different rules than everybody else. So that is coming. As I mentioned, California is not. But a pro model with 210 round mags. I imagine we'll do it at some point, down the road, but with the backlog that we have right now, we can't build enough of the 3 basic models, so it's not immediately forthcoming.
Okay. And what do you actually foresee the mix be? What do you think it's going to be the preferred choice between the pro and the with and without the external safety? What do you think the mix? Just guessing.
50-50.
Okay. Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, like on a full size gun, I would say no external safety. But on a carry gun, if I was spending my own money and buying one, I might possibly go with the external safety. But I guess also depending on which way you're going to carry, because if it's going to be up front pointing at your boys, I want an external safety on there. And if it's just, let's say, lower back or side, then no external safety. But
yeah, I prefer it on most things, and this one in particular is so much better designed and so easy to operate. Yeah. It's intuitive. If you shoot a 1911, you bring it up and you just do what you would naturally do. So it's very comfortable, easy to use safety.
And if you want my opinion, so 1911 is God's gift to Earth. It's like the bestest handgun design ever, followed by, from my homeland, the CZ75 variants, and then the Max 9. So it's close. All right. So this is actually a great suggestion for people who want 3-dot sights. Put 2 small divots on the rear and then fill them with white paint. Absolutely.
Yeah, it actually has a U-shaped notch basically on the rear sight. It's not filled in. You could fill it in if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I mean, like, were you guys inspired by Glock or something? Because most people hate that U-shaped thing.
I don't know. It just
Glock is more squared.
Yeah,
I think
it showed up in the mold tool.
The Hellcat has a U-shaped cutout sight in the back.
Yeah.
Okay, so we covered the availability, but I'm assuming you guys are just going to keep making them. All right. Blackout sights. Okay. Shout outs to Ruger employees. So shout out to Brian and Ruger who fixed my GP 100.
Excellent.
He did it up and nice. Okay. So speaking of revolvers, there was a question that I emailed you ahead of time. Have you heard any news about the Ruger LCR line? Someone's been looking for the LCR X 3-inch and 357 for about 8 months now.
Yeah, so it's like a lot of our product lines. I think we're making a little bit of everything, but So we are making LCRs and we're shipping LCRs every day. Primarily, a lot of the 38s, I think, and 22s are what's shipping currently. A few of the 357s, not as many of the steel framed models, but it's just like if you ask me, are we making Hawkeyes? Yes, but are we making the left-handed Hawkeye with the stainless barrel in well, probably not that particular one. The way things are, right now, and that is a fairly standard model, but we're cycling through and we're producing in batches, certain amounts of what's being demanded, but there's so much overwhelming demand in the core SKUs that we're really focused on trying to work down the backlog and get out a lot of the core product that's being demanded. So if you have something that's a little bit non-standard, yes, we're making those too, but probably not every day and not shipping as many of them.
Awesome. And he did make it in here, so we was able to pull up his question right there on there.
Mm-hmm.
late, but I made it. Hello, all. Hello, Ryan. So he actually joins us on pretty much every live stream we do. And thank you for being a Squad member. Okay, so actually, this is a comment. I too mostly shoot hollow points, but mainly to make sure I train with ammo I carry. And I guess also just to reiterate, so the Max 9 is perfectly fine with plus P ammo, but as per the manual, plus P plus was not recommended, correct?
Yeah. So we're a SAMI member, Sporting Arms Manufacturers Industry Association. And so all of our firearms are compatible with SAMI certified ammunition. And so 9mm Luger is a SAMI cartridge, 9mm plus P is a SAMI cartridge, 9mm plus P plus is not, it doesn't exist. So I understand you can go buy it from certain companies and whatnot, but what that means is it's loaded to pressures that are non-standard. And so I can't tell you what plus P plus is. I don't know, because there's no specification or limit for that. So it's whatever the manufacturer decides to make it. And so I couldn't, tell you that would be safe in a handgun. I don't think anybody could. But as far as plus P and hollow points, the Max 9 is fine with that. Obviously what most people are going to do is, you go shoot 100 rounds at the range. It's going to be, 115 grain ball, and you'll probably shoot one magazine of hollow points because they're $4 a round now, just to keep in practice. And you'll carry the hollow points, but I don't think a lot of people are shooting large volumes of defensive ammo for practice, unless you're funded by somebody.
Awesome. Thank you for that response. Okay, so there's a question on the rifle, and I'm offended that somebody worded it this way, which is, any chance Ruger will produce a 300 PRC? Ruger already produces a 300 PRC, which is the awesome Ruger Precision Rifle in 300 PRC, which I've did a number of videos on and lots of pictures and stuff. So what the hell? But I'm assuming they might say, love the Go Wild, and this new Max 9 looks great. But okay, we answered that. 300 PRC in the Go Wild Ruger American.
I don't think you'll see it this year.
Probably
not. I mean, gosh, it's not too early to start thinking about hunting season, and some of the basic hunting calibers and things like that. Starting to get those out for next year, right? So I don't know the exact plans on what caliber and all the different line extensions for the American rifles. I'm sure we'll get there at some point. But right now, I think there's probably a lot more focus on some of the basics.
Cool. All right. So I know I'm not going to hijack you time-wise, and I'm sorry we went slightly over. I'm going to go through and see if there's any final questions that you want to answer. But here's one that you could answer right now. How soon before Ruger starts placing a Ruger sticker in the Ruger boxes? Stickers help make us better marksmen. Really, though, that's free advertising. People want stickers. And look, if it's a money issue, Tom, Chris, make it happen. Put stickers in the damn box.
It's an interesting question, because I think we do.
And some of them,
probably
yes.
not consistently, I think. Maybe not every product line, but there's certain ones that we've been doing that for years. I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason as to which one gets stickers and which ones don't. But I'll look into that. Thanks.
I was gonna say patches, but
all right. If you guys want, okay.
Well, I'll Ruger.com. We've got pins and patches and bumper stickers and all that sort of thing there. But yeah, you're right. I think we do include them in the boxes with a lot of our firearms as well.
It seems like it's inconsistent. I think that's really kind of like what it is. There's some I remember they do come, some we don't. But okay, here's a call to action. Next person who becomes a channel member, click the damn join button. I will send you some Ruger stickers and patches that I have in my big bag from SHOT Show goodies that I can't seem to find stuff to do with. Ruger's going to start. When is Ruger going to start to manufacture lever actions? And I think that'll be the last question that you will answer. That I'll force you to answer. And I guess if you can on Marlin.
Yeah, so right, when will Marlin restart production? So that was a big exciting news for Ruger this year. Was having acquired the assets of the former Marlin company, as well as the Marlin brand, and so we spent some time earlier this year physically relocating Marlin equipment into the Ruger factories. Right now, we're in the process of getting that equipment set up, getting fixtures in place, restarting the supply chain, validating drawings. You know, it's a lengthy process, but we've got a whole team of engineers and manufacturing folks on that right now. I don't have an exact date when those will be released. It won't be before probably the end of this year, but the intent is to bring back the Marlin brand in the very similar Marlin firearms as to what was being produced about a year ago. So you'll start to see Marlin branded lever actions in the market soon, we hope.
Awesome. So thank you actually for answering that, because I know a lot of people are looking forward to it. And I think I'm waiting for something like 4570. You know, it would be cool, like a lever action 500. That would be cool. Yeah, I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah. Well, we'll start out, just recreating the existing Marlin line. We'll come back as it was before we start adding new things to it. That'll be down the road.
All right, and we have the winner of the pack. So Drew became a member, so thank you, buddy. And you're gonna get my shot goods for that. And once again, thank you for everybody who keeps coming on the stream. So awesome. All right, Brennan, I know you got to go. Thank you for sticking with us for over an hour and answering those questions. Derek and I are going to be on for a little bit more. Oh, that's actually a great. Okay, so if you can take a suggestion, a lever action 45 gap.
Sure.
Oh my god.
Why are you guys laughing? 45 gap is such an awesome cartridge. All right, we're going to talk about this, guys. But Brendan, thank you very much. I know you have family duties to attend.
Yep.
Thank you for coming on in the evening. And I guess where can more people find out more information on the Ruger Max 9 and give you the last parting words?
Yeah, so thanks for having me. Great questions. Hope you can find one at retail very shortly. If you're looking for more information, Ruger.com. And if you're looking for Ruger branded accessories, shopruger.com. Thanks again, Max. Shopruger.com. Thanks again, Max. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brendan. All righty.
Thank you, sir.
That was awesome. That was really, really, really good. All right, so we're going to go for 20 more minutes. I know sometimes we do these live streams and we're on for like 3 hours, but immediately after we end this at 9 o'clock, we're going to roll into a live video premiere I did a video and a lot of people were asking, how does the Max 9 take apart for disassembly? I know Ruger has a video. So I did about 25-minute video taking a look at, okay, how does the gun take apart? What my cleaning and lubrication process is, how to put it back together, and the same thing looking at how to take apart and clean the magazines, why you'd want to do that, and when you would want to do that. So, Derek, go ahead, give us some words, what you thought. I'm going to go through the questions, answer some of the questions that I know you put in. I won by time order, but there's some questions that I purposely didn't ask Brendan because I know he can't answer that because, well, Ruger is publicly traded, and it's not like some of the smaller companies who can share that. So go ahead, buddy.
So far, everything I've seen on the Ruger, it's exciting. It's exciting. What's going to happen with it, and how it's going to be on the market, because I have not seen one yet here in my area.
Cool. So. All right, and if you guys hear screaming, that's my kids probably trying not to go to bed. All right, so Slavguns, mag compatibility. So the Ruger Max 9 uses completely new magazines. They're not compatible with anything else. Okay. Why 12+1 and 13+1 like the Hellcat? So the Max 9 is either 10+1 or 12+1. I don't know why they couldn't do 13+1. That I think it would add a little bit more. I would say the thing to keep. Actually, I think I might know the answer to that. Let me see if I have the magazines here. Yes, I do. Okay. So it has to do with the base plates because so this is a 10+1, this is a 12+1. They use the exact same magazine bodies. The difference is you can either have a flat base plate or the one with the pinky extension, where this extension can comfortably add 2 rounds. I think by going to a different one, going one more might have made it a little bit more difficult. Okay. Okay. So Drew, this is actually the question, buddy. So suppose he can slip out the production numbers for how many RPRs have been made and how many were in RPR 6.5 PRC chamber. I asked the last Ruger up. He wasn't allowed to answer. That is still the answer. What I will say is I have some ideas, but I don't have any production numbers. 6.5 PRC is growing in popularity, but it's still nowhere near 6.5 Creedmoor for most manufacturers. You can combine all the chamberings of rifles that they have, and we're not going to equal to the amount of guns they sell in 6.5 Creedmoor. But I do think 6.5 PRC would probably be, at this point, the second or third most popular after 6.5 Creedmoor, 308, and then 6.5 PRC. And then they don't break down the numbers for the individual guns. So hopefully that answers that. Okay, any chance of another production run of Ruger 57 magazines? I'm going to try to follow up with them on this. What I would suggest is go on shopruger.com and get the SKU number, and then do a search on galleryofguns.com, which is Davidson's, which is one of their distributors. You can put it in, and it's going to tell you who else has those parts, and just look around. You should be able to find something. $4 around. So I think he was exaggerating a little bit on that, but no, defensive 9mm is probably easily $2.50 to $3 around right now. Okay, James, I'm glad that we were able to answer that. I mean, that's what I assumed, that you were asking about 300 PRC in the Ruger Americans. They can, I mean, they're doing them in the most popular calibers right now, and let's put it this way, I'm still waiting for 3 Ruger American guns, so 2 in 6.5 Grendel and 1 in 6.5 PRC. The 6.5 PRC go wild, and it's been like 4 months. The reason why, so it's like they batch produce them, so they're only going to do a run of certain amounts, and then we're waiting for another distributor order to put it in the planner, but hopefully soon. But I would say if you can find a 300 Win Mag Ruger American rifle, you can get a competent barrel maker who is going to, what's what I'm looking for? You can get a 300 PRC barrel that's pre-fit for a Ruger American, and that way get a Ruger American and 300 PRC.
Prefer Barrel Blanks does it.
Okay. There you go. Any chance? Okay, so we answered this one. He did answer that one. They are working on the Massachusetts compliance. And then there's another question in California. It is not going to be California compliant due to the microstamping, and that they would have to take other guns off of the roster. All right. 45 Gap. We got to talk about this. 45 Gap is a really cool cartridge. It is like 45 ACP, but better. You guys keep threatening me on that, but it's a really cool round. Unfortunately, even you can't find even 45 Gap right now, as everybody sold them out. And yes, it definitely was a solution in search of a problem. And the problem was that you couldn't get a... So basically what 45 Gap is, it's a higher pressure 45 ACP round that was designed to replace the 45 ACP and give you the stopping power of 45 ACP in a standard Glock frame. And because the large frame Glocks were like way too big and bulky. Other manufacturers didn't have that issue. And that's why it can kind of has failed. But I'll do a separate video on 45 Gap. I love that cartridge. It shoots really nice. So Mark, go through and look at the go back through and look at the last virtual SHOT Show that Derek and I did when we were joined by Mark from Ruger, and we do talk about Marlin in particular there for a while and their plans for that.
Yes.
Okay, so we answered the California compliance. Okay. Awesome. I'm glad you're here. I did have it specifically on my list, so I had pre-planned stuff. I'm like, Brandon, I want you to answer it. So awesome. Thank you for joining, and I appreciate you watching. Okay. Why the removable grip plug? Good question. I'll go back to that. Okay, so Joe, it's not proprietary mags. It's not planned obsolescence. The problem is that when you're trying to, it's a double stack that goes to a single stack. There is no other magazines that Ruger did right now that would fit comfortably to get you the capacity in that size of a gun. They literally had to, so you had to steal magazines, so it's going to be stronger, and you can make it as thin as you can get in order to get that capacity. So it's in this case, it's not, and especially with Ruger. I mean, keep in mind, a lot of the magazines that they use, so like for example, the Security 9, the compact and the standard use the same mags, and those are the same magazines that they used for the SR9 handgun. So I would say yes, some manufacturers do that. That definitely was not the case in this case, my opinion. I can't believe the California laws with new guns. I thought Connecticut was, now I feel like a Texan. Yeah, California has really stupid, I mean, they're very strict in that regard. Connecticut is not that bad. Mike thought, thanks, perfect. I don't remember what that was in regards to, but you're welcome. Go ahead, Derek. You're going to say something.
I was going to say the California compliance laws, Connecticut, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Illinois. They're all ridiculous. It's just, yeah. And I grew up in Massachusetts. I grew up in Massachusetts.
Yeah. So hopefully we don't have any more audio sync issues right now. There was a little bit of issues, and I think that was Brendan's internet connection. Like he popped up a couple of times. It's fun. Drew looked like he was in a stroke up when Taurus was brought up. It's a completely different gun. The one I forgot the model number was the new one that possibly was leaked, which is the micro one. But here's the thing, though. I mean, they both have their own place. Taurus, they have a very awesome value. There's still going to be some missing features in this case. I think in this case, you're trying to make the gun fit the case use rather than making it actually work. Now, if Taurus releases a new Micro 9, that would be a really, really good discussion point. The only thing I'd say with Taurus that really bugs the hell out of me, so number one is the triggers on the G3C. I mean, they're still not as good as a nicer trigger, but the finish that they use on a slide, one of the places where I feel they do cut costs is the finish. Very easily it scratches up and just pisses me off. Yeah. There you go. Ooh, I'm not alone. I just bought 12,500 rounds of 45 gap for 28 cents a round because it was available and cheap. Mike, I am glad that you're a fan of 45 gap at those price levels. Oh, yes. I do have a fanboy party. Gap is a cool idea. And then Nick obviously has to stop trying to make 45 gap happen. It's not going to happen. Okay, oh, that is awesome.
Gap concept was great. The marketing sucked.
Yes. After you said SHOT Show about 45 gap, order full set of dies. So did you know actually you can use 45 ACP dies to load 45 gap? You don't actually need to buy 45 gap dies, which is also one of the cool parts about it. So this was actually hilarious. It's fun to litter the range with 45 gap brass that reloaders pick up and realize they can't use it for 45 ACP. Nope, no comment on that.
If I could actually find a 45 gap, I'd actually buy one.
I'd actually buy one.
Okay. Okay. Nope. Okay, so if you're talking about like the plugs that go to, it's different mag. It could be interesting, but I don't think so. I'll find out a little bit more on there. Oh, and this is actually the other benefit because you can shoot 45 gap and 45 ACP revolvers. Yes, you can. So you still basically use the same moon clips and stuff. It's just a shorter cartridge. Hold on. Do I have 45 gap brass here? No, it's like somewhere over there. And actually, a bunch of USPSA people would do that. The reason why is because you can shoot major, because the cartridge itself is shorter, it's easier to put into the revolver. So there's a specific use for 45 gap versus 45 ACP. Okay, did I miss something? What transpired today?
You got me on this one.
Gab, what am I missing? Okay, so we have more fans of 45 gap coming out. Yes, I wanted my dice to say 45 gap, so Lee dies say 45 gap on them.
So don't Dylan.
Okay. So this is actually a great question. Thank you for bringing us up and take the conversation away from 45 gap because we're still the minority. Will the manufacturers ever agree to build more factories? If not, it's done. So here's the thing. I'm not sure how long you were a gun owner. Chime in. I'll browse through. Oh, apparently there's a shooting in Colorado. Okay.
Another
right.
liberal state, another shooting.
You do okay. So let me answer this one. So I'm not sure if you were here for the 2012 rush. Well, after Sandy Hook, everybody in Vermont thought that Obama was going to pass some more stringent gun control, so everyone rushed out and we had a panic buy. That's where cheaper than dirt got the name more expensive than shit. When they started originally charging $35 a box for 9mm. We had the demand increased about twofold, but the supply was really constrained. And that's when basic ARs, if you can find a DPMS or let's say an MP Sport for less than $1,500, that was considered a really good deal. When those prices spiked up, what ended up happening is everybody and their mother decided to build lowers or get into the gun business. And once things subsided, and in that case, it took about 6 months, 8 months, but things did go back down to normal. And by the time newer companies were increasing capacity, the demand started falling off. And keep in mind, so I covered the firearms industry as a financial analyst, and I publish on a couple of websites. I want to keep them separate, but ask me if you really want to know. What ended up happening is all of these new people, and we saw that in the first half of 2020, the people who went out and rushed out to buy guns or people who were already planning on buying guns anyway, and it ended up pulling up the demand from future years. This time, with the riots and everything, with COVID, it did create newer people, but you still had a lot of pulled up demand. And what's going to end up happening is once we see that there's not going to be any more imminent new gun control and they stop handing out stimulus checks, that the demand is going to drop off the face of the earth. For a manufacturer to get in, it's going to take them from the time to get the FFL and find the facilities and increase everything. It would take them anywhere between 6 months to a year to come out and increase the capacity. And by that point, it might actually end up going back to having lowers for 30 or 40 bucks. And here's the biggest difference. Even though we have this massive pent-up demand, you can generally go to the store right now and find a gun. Now, ARs, I mean, they might be a little bit more tougher to find, but they're not, a basic crappy AR is not selling for $1,500. You can find an AR for $600-700. I mean, it's not 500 like we'd see, but it's 600 to 700. So the guns are out there, and they're catching up to that. And February was the first month that NICS checks actually came back down to normal. So it's like, look, it's like there are 8 million first-time gun owners that became gun owners. I think a lot of those people are just, they just want to have one gun to protect themselves just in case. And they'll end up buying a bunch more ammo. So to me and you, spending more than $10 a box of 9mm is a travesty. But to somebody who just needs a box or two just to get proficient, to be able to know how to use a gun, and then they just want to have a couple of boxes just to have around. But once that happens, that's basically it. So demand is so, supply has picked up over doubled. Ammo manufacturers are making more than they ever produced. Gun manufacturers are running full 4 shifts. And take a look at the Darkstorm industry video that we did for SHOT Show, and we talk about this. They're running full, basically 4 shifts. They're adding more machinery, but we're still about a year backlogged. It will clear, but building, so adding machinery is a big expense, but building a new factory and hiring more people, it's difficult. And for most of the companies who have been here for more than a couple of years, they still remember 2012 to 2013 and how the gun industry almost went bankrupt because there is so much supply and demand really kind of started drifting off. They're hesitant. So wouldn't necessarily do that. So hopefully that answered that.
So can I chime in on this?
Okay. Yes, you can.
Okay, so back in 2012, I was a business.
You're wrong. Stop it. I'm kidding.
I was a
go ahead,
business
buddy.
owner. Of a firearm business. So from a business perspective, it was hard for us to get supplies, and it caused more problems with the firearms going up the way they did because of supply and demand. And the way I'm seeing things now, it's almost veering towards that way again, but on a different angle.
Okay. Okay, so there's a follow comment. Okay, I take that Novi won't. So that's actually not true. They're not necessarily building out a brand new facility from scratch. Some are, but they're definitely increasing the amount of production that they're doing. So for instance, I think Ruger had the capacity to do over 2 million guns a year, and they generally did 1 million guns a year. So they're almost doubling itself. So I mean, keep in mind, prior to this, the gun companies were not running to full capacity anywhere. They weren't anywhere near that. They did in 2012, and in 2012, then they increased the capacity up quite a bit, and then they had to level off, and they're running at pretty much 30 to 40% capacity. However, they don't necessarily, they don't need to build new factories in order to meet the demand. They just needed to increase their capacity to 100%. And in some cases they can, and in a lot of cases they have. It's just, if a company decides to go increase the capacity right now, that, let's say for example, for Ruger, that facility is not going to be ready for at least 2 years. It's not. Now, as far as, I don't see the demand going down ever again, that's completely wrong. And that's the same mentality that a lot of the analysts, the financial analysts, had in 2012 and 2013, when they thought that the gun stocks were the best investment in the world because it's never going to go down. It did. Here's the thing. How many guns do you need? I mean, like, what can you do with 500 guns that you can't do with 100 or 50? And here's really the biggest one. The NICS sales are already starting to go down. Guns are becoming much more available. I mean, look at, for example, the Smith & Wesson, the Shield Plus. I went to my local FFL. They had 30 of them on the shelves that you can buy. at like 569 or something like that. So I wasn't really crazy with that. But let's put it, until the store shelves are completely empty of any guns, we can't really discuss it. And I know there's some FFLs who are hesitant about it, but I mean, here's the thing though: if you really want a gun, you can probably find it. And until basic AR starts selling for $1,500 or more, which they're not anymore, there's still a bunch of stuff. All right, so guys, thank you guys for joining. So we have a video premiere that's starting right now. Let's go take our chat there, and I'll be answering that. We're trying it a little bit different this time because Brendan was doing that. So I'm going to end the premiere. Thank you guys. When I hit the end here, you'll automatically take you over to the video premiere, and we will chat this. But this is a really good discussion, and I'm glad that you guys are interested in it. So we'll talk more about this, and I'll send you the links. Go ahead,
Hey,
Derek.
Master Champs.
Hey, Master Champs.
We're doing a live stream on Wednesday.
On
my
Wednesday.
channel. Max will
Oh
be there.
yes,
Max will be there.
yes.
Come over. We'll do some more
Derek is-
discussion on
We'll
this.
do some more discussion on this.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great opportunity. So on Wednesday, we're going to go to Derek's channel. All right, I'm hitting end. We're going to the other video.